friend of mine who happens to be a Rosh Hashiva, he wrote a very interesting post on Facebook. His name is Rabbi Jeffrey Fox. You see a lot of posts during these times of parents when they're dropping their kids off at college for the first time. It's like a lot of excitement, a lot of like sadness and fear also. Like I did all I could while they were under my house, under my roof. Now I don't have control over what's going to be, and it's kind of like can be like an overwhelming feeling. So I think he dropped his child off for the first time, or maybe whatever. So he is reflecting on that. He goes, the hardest part of parenting is getting over the fantasy that we have control over the end point. Our children are going to land in places that we could have never imagined. Very often they choose to live lives filled with the values that we cherish, and that is wonderful. Sometimes they move in directions that feel like a rejection of our values, and that is painful. Nevertheless, our job in life is to continue to love, even when it is hard. So his reflection here, I think, is powerful. He says, I imagine that God often feels the same way. Perhaps the greatest fulfillment of striving to be like God is to love them anyway. That was a beautiful reflection. What I want to reflect on, though, is what we can do within our capacity to encourage our children to follow in our ways, to embrace our values. I think it's hinted to in last week's Parsha, in the second paragraph of the Shema. Second paragraph of the Shema speaks about teaching our children Torah. And it says there, "V'limadatem otam et b'nechem medaber bam." We have to teach our children to speak divrei Torah. Speak divrei Torah with them. That's all in the plural. "V'limadatem otam et b'nechem medaber bam." Okay, and then it continues in the singular. It says, "B'shivtecha b'veitecha v'lechtecha v'derech v'shoch v'kumecha." When you're sitting down, when you're getting in your house, when you're getting on the way, when you're going to sleep, when you're getting up. There's a lot of examples here, and they're all in the singular. So the Tav Sofer asks, like, why do we switch from the plural to the singular? It should be, you speak Torah to them, with them, and then while you and your children are on the way, while you're waking up, while you're walking, why is it you're kind of by yourself here? Why do we switch? I think one way perhaps to understand it is that the first part is about your learning with your children. We have to do our best to learn with our children, with our grandchildren. However, a lot of the stuff we do, the ways we teach them, are not necessarily with them. It's with them watching us do what we're doing. And so I think that's what the Pasuk's saying. Start out teaching your children. However, the Torah you're going to teach them isn't just limited to you being with them, learning with them. It's them watching you be a good Jew in all kinds of formats. When you're walking along the way, while you're leaving when you're sitting in your home, when you're getting up, when you're going to sleep. How you model for them what a good Jew is, that's a strong way to teach them Torah. So there are different ways to teach. And our children and grandchildren are always watching us no matter what we do. One example I can share from my past of an individual who impacted me, but I didn't really learn with him. Why not? It was Rav Aaron Lichtenstein at the Gush. Why didn't I really learn with him? I was kind of there towards the end of his career. He was considered one of the bigger rabbis in the previous generation, specifically in the modern Orthodox community in Israel. Why did I learn with him? I actually didn't understand him. Why didn't I understand him? He was kind of later in his life. He had a little bit it was a little more difficult to understand what he was saying, and also he's like in a different world, so it's kind of hard for me to understand him as well. So I didn't actually learn that much actual Torah from him. Unfortunately, once I listened to his recordings, like when he was 30 and 40 years old on YU Torah, I understood everything he was saying. So maybe it's like an age thing. But what I did learn from him, what he modeled for me, like I didn't learn actually from him, but I learned from his actions. When he would come into the yeshiva, he'd sit down, and he would sit down for chunks of time.